$WARD nigga. NAYIMED.
Welcome to my channel. My name is Nayim. I am your host, and today, did Beyonce's protege flop? Now, there's a couple of things you need to take into consideration, analyze, and examine before you render the verdict of if Chloe Bailey, who is signed to Parkwood under Columbia Records, which is Beyonce's record label, her debut album In Pieces selling 10,000 albums her first week, is a flop or not. And we're going to go through these. So, just a little bit of a background. Chloe and Hailey are a group. They're signed to Beyonce. They came in as a group. This is problem number one. See, y'all didn't break up, but what people see is y'all being broken up because they've been used to seeing y'all together this whole time. We're not dealing with people who aren't talented. We aren't dealing with people who don't know how to sing, and because these are singers, producers, songwriters, like heavy in the game of being generational talents. Like, we probably won't get a group this good unless we go to a church in Alabama and pull them out. You know what I'm saying? So when they don't see y'all together, it automatically clicks in their mind that y'all are broken up. And Hailey is over there doing the Disney thing, and you're over here doing the music thing. But we'll come back to why that split even matters. When people are used to seeing you as a group, a lot of times because the consensus is y'all broke up, people think that they're going to have the career like Pusha T and the Clips break up. Then named Malice, now named No Malice. The reason that it worked for Pusha T is because No Malice didn't try to go off and do no more rapping like that. He rap every now and then. You'll hear him on like local people songs and, you know, stuff like that. But like, your career not gonna go like that. Not in the beginning. You not even gonna have a situation like Outkast doing the speaker box in the Loves Below, where we'd make our separate albums, but we just together. See, it's delusional to think that if you come in as a group, that if you break up or separate from what entity we came to know you as, that people are going to be receptive in the beginning to whatever you got to do. Because make no mistake about it, selling 10,000 in your debut, even after having a good project, a better project than these mechanical pencil singers, these whisper vocalists, these people who don't have any talent for real, all they is cute and all of that barely. But like, you know, you still got to put that work in. And that leads me to this second thing about being signed to Beyonce don't mean anything. If you felt like being signed to Beyonce meant everything or was something that held some weight, because make no mistake about it, a co-sign in today's age, if it's not coming from somebody, like, I mean, a Beyonce co-sign is fantastic. However, Beyonce, let's be for real, Beyonce can't help you when it comes to selling something. We can go back as far as House of Darion. We can look as early as Ivy Park. This is have already proven that Beyonce's name, it can only carry Beyonce. So if anybody was looking for Beyonce to carry Chloe, you have been hoodwinked, tricked, led astray, run them up. Like, that is not going to help her. It wasn't going to help her anyway. And then I saw that DJ Envy was talking about how if Beyonce promoted it on her social media, then it would have sold more. That might have been true. But that's going to lead me into my next point. But I kind of want to save that point for last. But I'm going to just go ahead and fall into that in a second after we wrap this Beyonce up. Because my thing is, you're going to want your own identity. I tell people all the time, you don't want your identity caught up with other people's stuff, other people. Unless that's what if you're not in a gang, I'm going to be for real with you. If you're not in a gang, you don't need your identity tied up in somebody else's movement. I'm gonna be that's just it. Point blank, period. And you want to know why? And I'm talking about a gang, not And I mean, because people will say, you know, oh, the police is a gang and the fraternity is a gang. No, like, I don't agree with that. And only because you know what a gang is. Like, nobody's looking at, should I change the word from gang to organization? It doesn't matter. If you're not a part of an organization or a street gang, you don't need your identity tied up in what somebody else has going on, especially in music. Because the moment that you try to break away from your organization or you try to break away from your gang, nobody's going to be interested in you, because all we know you for being is affiliated with this organization, affiliated with this gang. The only difference is in music, if you have an affiliation to somebody else and you try to go do something else, it's gonna be harder for you to make your own identity opposed to a blood going to be a truck driver, opposed to a police officer going to be a chef. See, nobody cares about their personal affiliations. That's just a part of their identity. They can go and do whatever they want to. They're not in the public eye. Nobody knows them, and nobody cares what the gang member go get a job, or the police want to go cook, I don't know, ratatouille or something. Like, nobody cares. But when your identity in music is tied up with somebody else's, everything you do is like, it rests upon whatever they have going on. So if your identity is tied to somebody else and they're winning, you're gonna win. But if your identity is tied to somebody else and they're losing, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna lose. That's why you want to be a standalone person. Not saying, and I'm talking about actual ties to people. Her having ties to Beyonce, it's not gonna help her. I mean, it'll help, but she has to carve out her own identity, because your identity can't be, I'm signed to Beyonce, because that's the first thing people are gonna run to every time you try to do something. Because I'll wait for that. But the fact that you're over there and Beyonce is not putting her face on your movement, and this is the purpose of having your own movement. Beyonce's not putting her face on it because you have to do something for yourself and have your own identity. Otherwise, you just a dependent. You just a tax writer. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to be tied up in that. That didn't help her. I mean, well, because a lot of people's debut albums they don't really sell that good, no way. And I think that her selling 10,000 is good, because now it gives you something that you can actually sit down and look at and see what's going on. And it's going to lead me to this, and then I'll wrap it up with the record business part of it. But I've seen a lot of talk about how the people who like her are confused about her messaging, and they're confused about what she's doing, because they feel like she's trying to get into this prostitute music lane. She's trying to be like one of these hood rat hoes out here. She's trying to be like somebody that she's not, and they're confused. And I've seen half confusion, half disappointment, and then people who just like music. You know what I'm saying? So it's three different type of people I've been looking up and examining. Like I said, we don't be in a rush, because we want to make sure we get it right, so we don't bring you no misinformation. By the way, come over here tomorrow. We're going to be doing what rappers don't tell you about self-defense. But people are confused because they're used to seeing you, and they're used to holding you to a higher standard as far as image goes. And this goes back to what I said in the beginning about your sister going over there and doing Disney. Even though Halle Bailey is dealing with a disgusting level of racism from people bleaching her skin on the posters, calling her every name that you can muster up, you know, if whatever racial term, making up different racial epithets, just all type of stuff piled on top of the fact that her boyfriend is DDG, piled on top of the fact that she had people feel however they feel about her. The difference is she's maintaining that good girl, pristine image. We all know that there's a point in female music career where you can go from good person to sexy bad girl. You know what I'm saying? Rihanna's a perfect example of like you can go from a good whatever, and then something happens and you turn into something sexy. It's a way to be sexy without being a whore. And I'm just saying that based on the consensus. Do I feel that way? No, don't care either. But people are saying that what the hell is going, like people are confused about what you're doing because all they see is you getting naked and posting this up, and then they're taking snippets out your song. Because my thing is they're listening to the music, and they feel like what is going on with you. They don't know what's happening, and it's just you trying to get yourself an identity. They're hearing your songs and they listen to your lyrics and they're like, man, you are better than this. Like, it's kind of like looking at somebody you looked up to and being disappointed. It's like, what if your whole life you loved Superman, but you found out Superman really couldn't fly and he really have no cape? Everything you saw was a lie. And that's how people feel about her. And that's how people, this is why stuff is all confused, because now, and this is going to fall into point 4 because I can't stay on these for too long. Or I think it's 4 or 5. I don't know. I lost count. But people are confused about the messaging, the imagery, and everything that's going on with you. So what do people do when they're confused? They don't do anything. This is why confusion is one of the best weapons you can use. Because when a person is confused, they don't make a decision. So if I'm confused about seeing Chloe Bailey, like, is she trying to be a prostitute or is she trying to be a wholesome person? Because make no mistake about it, real wholesome people ain't identifying with prostitutes, and prostitutes is not identifying with fake prostitutes. Because the wholesome people, and again, these are not my personal sentiments about it, we're just analyzing what's happening in the ecosystem. A wholesome person has no desire to do anything like a prostitute does, because the whole premise and basis of a prostitute is you'll do anything for some type of, commercial transaction, commerce. There's no morality in that. If you got the commerce, I got whatever you're trying to buy. Your price point at this point don't matter. So wholesome people are not looking over there envying that and being like, man, like what's going, like whatever. They're just looking like, I thought you was one of us. Prostitutes are not looking at people trying to be prostitutes because for the same reason a wholesome person is not trying to be a prostitute. A prostitute will look at a fake prostitute and be like, you not one of us. And what does that cause these groups of people to do? Like I said, confusion is a weapon. It is the greatest weapon you can use because you don't make a decision. You go to the grocery store, to the ice cream aisle, it's 50 types of ice cream. You'll stand there so long trying to pick. And this is why places like McDonald's don't sell more than 2, it used to be 3, but they don't sell more than 2 type of ice cream. You getting chocolate or vanilla, because when I take your options away, you don't have a choice but to pick. Opposed to if it's 50 different choices, you're not gonna pick because it's what's it called? Paralysis by analysis or something like that. I think there's a term for it, and I think it's called paralysis by analysis. You're trying to make a decision, but you can't make a decision because you have too many choices. And this is how people look at you in your music career when you have too much going on and people don't know what's happening, and they don't know if you with them or you represent them, or it's something they can get behind, or it's something that they should just totally reject. They're just somewhere in the middle, confused. So to wrap up, the last part of is this a flop or not is we're in a landscape where music is being consumed in a different way. Nobody buys records no more. Like if you give somebody a CD, that's really like a collector's item. Like a person who would go and physically buy a physical product of yours, that's somebody that really supports you, and you should judge, hey, look, where's my support at? By how many people actually show up and buy. Nobody, the ecosystem that she is in, nobody buys albums. Nobody's buying digital music because I pay XYZ amount to have a streaming service and listen to your album as much or not listen to your album. I have the choice to check you out and put you up and put you down. So I don't know if they change how many streams make an album sell, but that's what people are doing. We're in the landscape and in the era of streaming. So nobody, if I have to pay, I got a family plan for Spotify. So if I pay $13 a month and I'm not a hardcore fan of you, why would I buy your album? If I'm not interested in supporting you past, I just want to see what you got going on, I'm not buying your album. There's nothing that I said before this that would make me feel like I need to be mobile enough to buy the album of somebody I'm confused about, somebody that is just starting out, somebody that, whatever. And this is just the landscape. They took away physicals. People aren't buying digitals. She's dependent on streaming. Now, there are things that could have helped her sell more. She should have been better as marketing and promoting this album. She needs to get her message discipline on track, and she needs to go back to what she actually knows. It's cute to make the fun records and stuff, and you should do what you want to do, but you're in a different landscape, in a different musical ecosystem nowadays, where they care about how much advertising they can sell. They care about how many views you can get. They care about, because they want the views so they can sell ads. But you are operating in a system where nobody has, like, I gotta buy your album. I don't have not to. I'm talking about back in the day. You had to actually watch somebody look at a review. Like, they had your album early. So, like, let's just say Source Magazine had your album early, or Jet, or whoever. Somebody who was actually a respected music critic would listen and write a review. And that's why people used to make a big deal about how many mics they would get. That's how Benzino and Eminem ended up fighting, because of how many mics a person get, because that can make or break your album going platinum the first week, or you completely flopping and only selling 10,000 because somebody had a respected voice and new music could say this was a good album or it wasn't. You don't have to do that nowadays. Nobody even reads digital, nobody even goes to these people's websites unless somebody got in a car crash. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we're in a different ecosystem now where I can listen to your album one time, and if I decide I don't like it, I never have to be bothered with it again. So it's all about building up the people who are going to support your movement. 10,000 in your first debut. A lot of people, Reasonable Doubt didn't do, I don't know what the numbers for that was, but people talk about everybody's debut albums. This is a good point for you. It's numerically, if you're going by the old law, then yeah, it's a flop. But in real life, this is your opportunity to analyze. It's like playing on a sports team or doing something. You can go back and look at the footage and analyze what went wrong and just go from there. You don't have to stay there. You can just keep going, because you're gonna have to keep going because you just sold 10,000 albums. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, these are the things to consider. The old music industry don't work. Nobody cares about you being signed to Beyoncé, Columbia, Parkwood, what your sister got going on. Nothing. It's all about you and what you got. So, but you can let me know if you feel like it's a flop or not based on everything I just said. The biggest thing is that old music industry model is garbage. Who cares? Like, the whole thing, it'll be like, it's people that have 10,000 streams and you can buy that. You know what I'm saying? Nobody knows that. Nobody would know your song or something like that. And if she sold 10,000 albums based on pure streams, that's a lot of streams. Because I think it's like 15. I don't know what the numbers is. Let me get out of here. You let me know after everything you heard. Has this changed your mind about how her album sold? Or is it like, no, whatever? Because are we being too hard on somebody who doesn't understand the new music industry? Or is it like you had every opportunity, we just testing, because it really, she could run this off as I'm just testing the water, come back and blow us out, hire some writers, hire somebody who actually maybe knows what they're talking about. She's a good writer, so it's like she probably wouldn't even need to hire a writer. She could just hire somebody who knows how to put her where she needs to be. So, my name is Nayim. I will holler at you.
Nayimedward $, nigga. Nayimedward.